Hello, everybody. Here's Bill Owen behind the microphone once again, our podcast. And my inspiration for a little colloquy today is just about sports nicknames. I was thinking about some of the great names. And, baseball seems to have the most, but a lot of them in college and pro football and various other sports. You know, the most common nickname, they say, I can't prove this, but it's been said the most common nickname in baseball is a name that was applied to me when I was in college playing basketball. It was Lefty. Lefty, yeah, so that makes sense. Lefty Gomez, many others over the years. And number 2, what do you think that would be? Red. Red, as in Red Schoendienst, or the two great Yankees, pitcher Red Ruffing and third baseman Red Rolfe. Oh, you know so many of them. The Yankee Clipper, if you're a baseball fan, that's easy as pie. The great Joe DiMaggio. And the Splendid Splinter, another wonderful name. They don't seem to have great nicknames today as they did back in the 30s and 40s. Aren't they colorful? The Yankee Clipper and the Splendid Splinter, Stan the Man Musial. And even earlier, the Georgia Peach, Ty Cobb's. The Splendid Splinter, Ted Williams. There are a couple of anecdotes I have to pass along while I'm on the subject of the great left fielder for the Red Sox. But long after he retired, he was in his 80s, and somebody said to him, "Ted, what would you be hitting in today's baseball with the diluted pitching and the expanded teams and so on?" He says, probably about 220. And he said, "Oh, come on, Ted, you could do better than 220. He says, "Well, you got to remember, I'm 80 years old." Another time, I was at Fenway Park, and a fella told me an anecdote while I was sitting there watching, long after Williams' career. But I was sitting there at Fenway Park, and the fellow next to me said, when Ted Williams used to come to bat, he had so much respect from the other players and the umpires. And the umpires would sometimes go by what Williams did to deciding whether the ball was over the plate or not for a ball or a strike. And one time the catcher thought the ball nipped the corner, and he held it in position, and the catcher was sure it was a strike, and the umpire said, "That's a ball." And the catcher flipped off his mask and cap and said, "What do you mean? Look, it's right there on the corner." And the umpire calmly said, "When it is a strike, Mr. Williams will let us know." I love that. Of course, one of the most famous nicknames, there's only one Yogi, right? A lot of people don't even know his first name, was Larry, Yogi Berra. And speaking of Yankees, there was King Kong Keller, great left fielder. How about the Say Hey Kid, Willie Mays? That came from the fact that he used to say hey quite often while he was playing. Wee Willie. Who is Wee Willie? Wee Willie Keeler, one of the early ball players, way back before Babe Ruth. And he used to say, "Hit 'em where they ain't." That was his secret. He's a wonderful singles hitter, and he believed in placing that ball where the fielders couldn't get it, just past the infielder and just before the outfielder. So hit 'em where they ain't. That, to this day, it's an old aphorism from baseball. The Fordham Flash. That was Frankie Frisch, a great football player, as well, that's where he got the nickname in football, though he was better known as a baseball player and manager. Leo the Lip DeRocher, of course. How about Master Melvin? Who would that be? The one and only Mellott came up to majors as a teenager and became one of the great hitters of all time, 512 National League home runs. The Big Train, that was Walter Johnson. Why was he the Big Train? Well, that was because in those days, that was the fastest way of transporting, long before airplanes came along. So it was a tribute to his speed, his fastball, to call him the Big Train. And then there was the Big Unit, decades later, Randy Johnson. Prince Hal. I had the occasion to interview Prince Hal Newhouser on radio, the great lefty from the Tigers. And I remember I said, when I was a young fella, I heard you in a 45 World Series against the Cubs. And I remember the announcer saying, Hal, likes to put the visor of his cap down over his eyes to cast a shadow, and he doesn't shave before a game. He wants a menacing look. And I said, "Is that true?" He said, "I never heard that one before." So announcers, I guess I'm among them, maybe has a tendency to exaggerate once in a while. But there was another Prince Hal, even earlier, Prince Hal Chase, a first baseman. Harry the Hat Walker, the brother of Dixie Walker, two wonderful outfielders. Lou the Iron Horse Gehrig, of course, obvious for his playing streak, consecutive game streak. And Pie Trainer, that's an unusual nickname, isn't it? Harold Trainer, third baseman for the Pirates. He later became a great radio broadcaster. One of the best nicknames is a simple home run. Frank Home Run Baker. That was his nickname. Now you'd think, well, he was a tremendous home run hitter, right? Well, actually, the most home runs Frank Baker ever hit in a season was 12. But he got the nickname because he hit a bunch of home runs at a strategic time over a very, very short period. So he became Frank Home Run Baker. George Metkovich, the Red Sox outfielder, the Catfish. And then there was Catfish Hunter. Dutch Leonard, of course, a great knuckleballer for the Washington Senators. The Arkansas Traveler, Bill Dickey, in tribute to his home state. You know who Old Reliable was? The Yankee right fielder. Yeah, that was Tommy Henrich, and he wasn't Old Reliable, both at bat and in the field. Not a spectacular player, but as his nickname implies, very reliable. Let's see, who else? We mentioned Stan the Man, of course. There was Ducky Joe Medwick. He was the player who was thrown out of I think it was the 34 World Series because the fans were pelting him, the Detroit fans were pelting him with all kinds of garbage. And Commissioner of Baseball, Kennesaw Mountain Landis, decided it was for his own protection to remove him. They were throwing bottles and all kinds of things at him. Rabbit Moranville, from the Miracle Braves of 1914, that great shortstop. They were so far behind, and they came up the last part of the season, swept into the World Series, and took all 4 games there. Oh, we're going over nicknames like the Schnoz. That would be the catcher Ernie Lombardi. Flash Gordon, of course, Joe Gordon, the great Yankee second baseman, in honor and deference to the star of the movie serials and comic strip and radio, Flash Gordon. There were the Kitten and the Cat, Harry the Cat Brackeen, who won 3 games in the 44 World Series against the Browns. Harry the Cat Brackeen, and then later Harvey the Kitten Haddix, both lefties. We mentioned Babe Ruth, of course, but he was also known as the Bambino. Another Babe comes to mind, Babe Herman. Let's see. How about a football player for a change? Old 98 was Tom Harmon, who was also a great college basketball player, but we remember him for his antics as a running back, a triple threat man, really, for the Wolverines. There was the Galloping Ghost, Red Grange. There's a basketball player who I want to mention. The Owl Without a Vowel. Of all the nicknames, I think that's one of the most clever of all. Bill Milkvy, M-L-K-V-Y. And he played basketball, a great star for the Temple Owls, and therefore known as the Owl Without a Vowel. How about more modern times? A-Rod, of course, Alex Rodriguez. Oh, some boxers come to mind, like Joe Louis, the Brown Bomber, or Sugar Ray Robinson, and later Sugar Ray Leonard. There was Mickey Walker. Here's a great nickname, the Toy Bulldog. Gentleman Jim Corbett, the Manasseh Mauler. Jack Dempsey, of course. The Boston Strong Boy, John L. Sullivan. And back to basketball, Oscar Robertson, the Big O, Oscar Robertson. From football, legendary Glenn Davis and Felix Doc Blanchard. Mr. Inside and Mr. Outside. Mr. Inside being the fullback Blanchard, Mr. Outside Glenn Davis. What a twosome they were. In golf, there was Slammin' Sammy Snead and Bantam Ben Hogan, and hockey, Maurice the Rocket Richard and his younger brother, the Pocket Rocket. How you like that? Henri Richard. Well, those are just a few of the many nicknames. I'm sure if you put your mind to it, you'll think of others as time goes by. But it's fun to remember them, and I just wish they were more creative today with nicknames as they were back in that old time. Those days that we enjoy and reminiscing from the big band era, the comic strips, the movie serials, the great motion pictures, the classic era, the 40s and 50s. Oh, popular music. Everything was wonderful in those days. Even politics was more interesting, wasn't it? The days of Roosevelt, Wilkie, Dewey, Truman. Well, we're signing off for another podcast, and we'll get together another time, who knows when, just to reminisce about those great old days. This is Bill Owen.